Okay, everybody, we're going to start on chapter 2.1, Stalin's rise to power. How did Stalin come to power as the leader of the Soviet Union? Okay, some key dates first. 1918, this is when the USSR is formed. 1924, Lenin dies. 1928, this is when Stalin comes to power. And when does it end? 1953, Stalin dies. Okay, we see here that it is a huge amount of time, more than 20 years that Stalin is in power. The question is, how did he come to power? And in the second chapter, we will look at the impact of his rule. All right. So this is the overview of the chapter. You must always remember on textbook page 61, if you look at it at the end of the chapter, at the end of every chapter in the textbook, there is a mind map that tells you what you need to look at, what are the important points. So please use that as a resource, okay? And so remember, when we are looking at the reasons for Stalin's rise to power, the most important question we need to ask ourselves is, which is the most important factor, okay? Which factor carries the most weight, okay? Is there a driving cause? Okay, so is there a catalyst? Okay, is there a trigger? Or is there a root cause? Okay, is there something which everything else can be traced to? Okay, those are two criteria that you can use for which is the most important factor, okay? And so there are three, the non-disclosure of Lenin's Testament, Trotsky's unpopularity, as well as what Stalin himself did. So today we're just going to work through the non-disclosure of Lenin's Testament. Before that, there will be a bit of context, then we'll look at the factor itself, all right? We have gone through all this in class, so please move along with me to the first point. Just remember, this is called the hammer and sickle. Don't just tell me a communist symbol, okay? So this is the story. Remember, we stopped at the Russian Revolution, right? And now we have the USSR, okay? But what we have is Lenin, okay, dies in 1924. And now Lenin is tremendously influential and important. He is regarded, okay, he's very well regarded by everyone. Greatly influential, okay? So what happens is that when he dies, there is a vacuum at the top. A power struggle takes place. Why? Okay, if my top dog in any organization, when the head is changed, there is a struggle for power because somebody needs to fill that position of influence. So his death results in a power vacuum saying that, meaning that there's nothing in space, okay? Something needs to occupy that vacuum, okay? And this power struggle is a competition between the different politicians in the Communist Party, which we are going to look at, okay? So who will be Lenin's successor? We know at the end of the story, we know that it is Stalin. But the question is, how did Stalin emerge from this power struggle, okay? So the first thing we're going to look at is the non-disclosure of Lenin's Testament. Disclosure means the release, okay? That's to say, it was meant for public consumption, but it was never published, okay? Testament means it was something like his will, okay? His final words, okay? What he wanted to say, all right? And of course, you would respect the final words of your leader, okay? And so this is what is going on. In Lenin's Testament, we see that it is a document which also outlines Lenin's thoughts and plans, right? And of course, it will have to do with how the Soviet Union proceeds, okay? Now, this is very interesting that in Lenin's Testament, actually, he criticized Stalin, okay? He says basically that Stalin is not the best leader he says that Stalin should not be allowed to be the Secretary General. This is an outright criticism of Stalin, okay, of which Stalin is, of course, not going to be very happy about, you can imagine, okay. However, we must see that the important point about Lenin's Testament is that it criticized everybody else, okay. Central Executive Committee is basically all the most important members of the Communist Party. CCCP is the acronym for the Communist Party, okay? So we must consider what this means. If I am a member of the CCCP, if I'm a member of the Central Executive Committee, okay, and there is a document that details my weaknesses and says that I am not fit to lead the Communist Party, there is no way that I am going to want this document to be published. Okay, and that is how we get to point 3, because nobody wants a Lenin's Testament to be published. Okay, and what does this mean? Okay, this means that this criticism of Stalin was never published. Okay, so criticism of Stalin is not published, right? So what does it mean? Okay, Stalin retains positive image, right? Okay, more than that, Stalin remains Secretary General. Now, Secretary General is an important position which we will go on to look at in the third point. Okay, and with this, he can further his grip on power. Okay, we must think about this. Okay, what caused the non-disclosure of Lenin's Testament? Okay, it's something to think about. To what extent is Stalin responsible for the non-disclosure? Okay, and I think that this point is very useful because it shows that this is a factor which is beyond Stalin's control, right? He can't actually say, guys, we don't publish, okay? Because it has to be everybody else who is saying this in order for the testament not to be published, okay? And furthermore, the testament did say Trotsky should be leader. Okay, and so the impact of this point is that Lenin's the fact that Lenin's Testament was not made public, made known to everybody, meant that the rest of the Communist Party would maintain the status quo. That is to say, they would still remain in power. Okay, so we will stop here, and then please go and watch the other videos on the other 2 points.